Hey everyone, and a huge welcome to today's Explainer. Class 12 students, you'll definitely want to listen up for this one. Today, we're embarking on what I like to call the biological journey of life, specifically human reproduction. Now, if you're taking notes for your upcoming exams, you're going to want to star this topic, highlight it, maybe circle it in red, because it is incredibly high yield. We're talking a guaranteed 3 to 4 questions from this chapter alone. So we're going to break it all down, step by step, so you fully understand the mechanics of exactly how life continues. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our map for today's biological journey. We're starting with the rules of the game, then hitting the factory stage, transfer and meeting, building a new life, the makers, and finally, the transporters and facilitators. Part 1. The rules of the game, the foundational traits of human reproduction. So, before we take this journey, we have to understand the boundaries, right? How does this biological system actually operate? Well, as humans, we play by a few highly defining rules. First, it's a given that we're unisexual, meaning one individual produces only one type of gamete. But beyond that, we have sexual dimorphism. That just means males and females have distinctly different external physical appearances. Then, there's internal fertilization, where the actual fusion of those gametes happens entirely inside the female body. And finally, we are viviparous.
Now, you might be remembering that term from your Animal Kingdom chapter. You likely studied the difference between oviparous and viviparous. Because humans are viviparous, we directly give birth to live young ones rather than laying eggs. Our whole journey today focuses entirely on the internal biological machinery that makes this live birth possible.
Let's move on to Part 2, the factory stage, gametogenesis.
Gametogenesis is absolutely crucial. It's the big pre-fertilization event, where the essential ingredients, the gametes, are actually created. And the process looks a bit different depending on the factory. In the male factory, the process is called spermatogenesis, which is the formation of motile sperm in the testes. Over in the female factory, it's called oogenesis, the formation of the egg or ovum in the ovaries. These are the two essential components that have to be perfectly manufactured before our journey can go any further.
Which brings us to Part 3, transfer and meeting, insemination and fertilization.
So once the gametes are made, they need to travel and combine, kind of like passing the baton in a biological relay race. This happens in 2 distinct steps. First up is insemination. Because the male gamete is motile, meaning it can move, and the female gamete is immotile, the sperm has to be transferred inside the female reproductive tract. And wow, they have to swim a massive biological distance relative to their microscopic size. It's literally like a human trying to swim across a vast ocean. Once they successfully make that trek, we reach fertilization, which is the actual fusion of the male and female gametes.
And this brilliantly illustrates the math of life. When fertilization occurs, it creates a single cell called a zygote. The male sperm brings 23 chromosomes to the table, and the female egg brings its own 23 chromosomes. They fuse together to create a completely new, unique, diploid zygote with exactly 46 chromosomes.
All right, Part 4, building a new life, post-fertilization events. Let's see how this builds, because the early timeline moves incredibly fast. On day 1, we have our single-celled zygote. But over the next few days, this cell undergoes rapid, explosive mitotic divisions. It multiplies and multiplies until it forms a hollow, fluid-filled ball of cells called a blastocyst. By roughly day 6 to 12 after conception, this blastocyst is ready for a highly critical event called implantation.
Now, implantation is exactly what it sounds like. It is the physical attachment of that blastocyst directly into the wall of the mother's uterus. I really cannot stress enough how critical this moment is. If this attachment fails, the biological journey stops right here and an abortion occurs. But if it succeeds, this event officially marks the beginning of pregnancy and the mother's body begins to support the new life.
Once implanted, we officially enter the gestation period, which lasts approximately 9 months, give or take 7 days. Now listen up, because here is a massive sticking point for exams. You need to know the exact difference between an embryo and a fetus. From the moment of fertilization right up to the end of the 8th week, the developing life is called an embryo. But from the beginning of the 3rd month all the way until delivery, it is officially classified as a fetus. Make sure you have those timelines completely memorized.
Inside the uterus during this 9-month gestation, there is some major construction happening. First, plantation occurs,
forming the placenta, which serves as the vital nutrient and oxygen lifeline from the mother. Next up is gastrulation. Think back to your 11th grade syllabus on diploblastic and triploblastic organisms. In humans, gastrulation is the formation of our 3 distinct germ layers. Those layers then undergo organogenesis, folding and specializing to form every single specific organ and organ system in the developing body. It's like a giant biological puzzle coming together.
Finally, we reach the end of the internal timeline. After roughly 9 months, parturition occurs. That's just the scientific term for the delivery of the fully developed child. And immediately following parturition is lactation, where the mother's body produces milk to nourish the newborn. Now, I have a quick challenge for you. Try to recall the specific hormones from your 11th grade chemical coordination chapter that are responsible for milk production and milk ejection. Hint, it's all connected. Moving on to part 5, the makers, primary sex organs.
Let's zoom out from the timeline for a second to examine the actual machinery that makes this journey possible. What defines a primary sex organ is its dual role. It has to do 2 specific things: produce the gametes and secrete the primary sex hormones. In males, the testes are the primary organs. They produce the sperm and secrete testosterone. In females, the ovaries are the primary organs. They produce the egg and secrete estrogen and progesterone. If an organ doesn't do both of these things, it is not a primary sex organ.
And that brings us to our final section, Part 6, Transporters and Facilitators, Secondary Sex Organs.
So the crucial point here is that secondary sex organs have absolutely zero role in making gametes or secreting those primary sex hormones. None at all. Their entire job is to take what the primary organs made, mature it, and transport it safely to where it needs to go. Let's look specifically at the male secondary reproductive system, which is located in the pelvic region. It's broken down into 3 distinct categories. First, the external genitalia, which includes the scrotum and the penis. Second, the accessory ducts, which are the literal tubes the sperm travels through. And third, the accessory glands, which add crucial fluids along the way.
Think of those accessory ducts as the exact physical highway system the sperm must travel to exit the body. Once the sperm leaves the testes, it flows sequentially through the rete testes, into the vas efferentia, down into the epididymis for maturation, and finally up through the vas deferens. Memorizing this exact pathway is super important for your exams.
And as the sperm travels down that highway, the accessory glands release their secretions. These fluids mix with the sperm to form semen. Now here is a massive exam-ready call-out that trips up a lot of students. Pay attention to the numbers. The seminal vesicles and Cowper's glands are pairs, meaning there are 2 of each. But the prostate gland, it is a single solitary gland. Definitely remember that distinction.
Well, we've covered a massive amount of ground today on our biological journey. Let's do a quick, direct knowledge check. This is a highly frequent exam question. Can you pause for a second and list out the 7 major events of human reproduction in their exact, correct chronological sequence? Give it a thought.
Did you get it? Here is the master sequence. Gametogenesis makes the gametes. Insemination transfers them. Fertilization combines them. Implantation attaches the blastocysts. Gestation develops the fetus. Parturition delivers the child. And lactation nourishes them. If you can understand the flow of this sequence, you have an incredible foundation for this chapter. But this leaves us with a fascinating question. What exactly are the microscopic, intricate steps happening deep inside that male reproductive system to kick this entire sequence off in the first place? We are going to explore the precise anatomy of that system in our very next explainer. Thanks so much for joining me today. Keep studying hard, and I'll see you next time.